Welcome into the men's basketball report for Monday, November 28th, and here with head coach Josh Schertz to recap the last week and then look ahead to another big week for the Railsplitters. Coach, obviously 2 games last week. Let's start with the first one. You opened the open sack play over there in Jefferson City at Carson-Newman, and just a game that me and you talked afterwards. Just felt like could have gone our way and really got over the hump and put that one away probably 5 or 6 different times. But Carson-Newman comes away with 111 to 109 victory in overtime on that game-winning shot. So just kind of, now that you've had time to step away and look at that one after the fact, how do you assess that one?
Well, I thought, leaving Evansville, we had, some serious concerns about, the Huntsville game we had talked about. I was so disappointed, not because we lost, but because of all the things inside the game, the porous defense, the rebounding, the selfish offense, and then obviously I thought, kind of from an effort standpoint, quitting when things got difficult, and we laid down. And I thought, in a couple areas we grew against Carson-Newman. I thought we played hard for the 45 minutes. I thought we executed much better offensively. The ball moved. We weren't, just taking long contested twos early in the clock, which was an improvement, off no passes. We looked like kind of like a college basketball team, at least on the offensive end. Where I thought, the game got away from us. You scored 97 in regulation, 109 in overtime. That's plenty to win. But this team, has struggled with, on the defensive side and rebounding side, just calling it like it is. And Carson-Newman exposed us there. I thought they got downhill. We opened the gate every drive. No vertical help. Our help was late. And then on the off chance they did miss, we didn't have anybody down there V-backing and taking a body, so they were able to grab a bunch of weak side rebounds and stickbacks. And Carson-Newman, I thought, played very well. They got a very good team. You play them on their home floor. You give them 13 offensive rebounds. They got 7 more shots off than we did, and they took 7 more free throws. So they had a bunch more possessions than we did because they pounded us on the offensive glass. So, that's where we lost that game. I think it came down to, that there's a level of toughness, physical and mental, that you have to win. It's very difficult to win. I think sometimes that gets lost when you have a lot of success, is how hard it is to win. And so, we haven't demonstrated that, to that point. And so, again, you take the loss and hopefully you learn and you grow from it. There was areas of growth. Like I said, from a playing hard standpoint, I thought our guys played as hard as they could play against Carson-Newman. And I thought, execution-wise, we were light years better than we were against Alabama or Huntsville. It's just those areas of our defensive, our commitment to the defensive end of the floor, our commitment to the things that go into winning has to be better. And I think that was another step in the learning process for our guys, is that we need to ramp up in those 2 areas to become a good basketball team.
Well, then on Saturday you went over to Virginia Wise and one that we really needed to get back on track, a 2-game losing streak. And after the game you told me, you thought it was as close to a full 40 minutes as you guys have put together all season, a 105-62 win. You were awesome on the offensive and defensive side of the floor, and probably there you were most excited about rebounding a 55-28 edge. So really one of those games you feel like that when you went over to Virginia Wise, that's a game that could knock you guys back on track, and you see what it takes to win there.
Yeah, Wise, I think we were, they're a much better team than what they played. I think, watching them against, they had Carson-Newman, beat there and wound up, Newman hit a 3, late in the game to send it to overtime and beat him in overtime. But we thought, going in, we had respect for him. I think guys were a little disheartened by our performances. I think going into the season, really after the first 2 games, we probably had a little bit of a lack of humility, and going in and getting beat like we did by Alabama Huntsville, then going and dropping one to Carson-Newman, I think maybe gave our guys a little bit of a better perspective on how hard things are. And we came out, and I thought for the first 11 minutes we were really locked in, focused on both sides of the ball. We got out to a 28-7 lead. We're doing a really good job flying around defensively. We were moving the ball offensively. From there, we got stagnant, got a 9-0 run against us, turned it over 4 straight times, and then led to, some run outs and also just some poor individual defense. And then, we called timeout, and Deshaun came in and hit a couple threes right there and stuck some big shots to kind of give us separation. And we kind of, once the shots went in, which is not a great quality, but when Deshaun made a couple shots, energy level picked back up defensively and on the glass, and we were able to pull out to a big lead. And then the second half was, like a lot of times when you have a significant lead at halftime, it was uneven. We came out, I don't think our intensity or focus was quite as good. And then I think it ramped back up there for a little stretch, 4 or 5 minutes, and then when we subbed out there the last 10 minutes, it was up and down. But definitely as close to 40 minutes as we've come. I don't know that it was that's not saying much given the season, I thought, but but as close as we've come to putting together 40 minutes and some improvements in stretches. We were better defensively. We were much better on the backboards. Now, part of that was, I think, Wise didn't send as many guys that were trying to get back and stop us in transition. But we were a little bit better there, and we were a little bit better on the ball. But still, light years to go to become a good team on the defensive side of the ball. That's we had a number of breakdowns there, some which Wise made us pay, some which they didn't. But long way to go, but definitely a couple steps in the right direction from some different areas. We're not close to where we need to be, obviously, to become a good team, but we're significantly better than we were than the team that showed up to play Alabama-Huntsville on that Saturday in Evansville.
Right now, I want to talk about some of the individual pieces. A guy that we expected a lot from this season, Emmanuel Terry, has been pretty good for you guys so far this year. Now, I don't know how maybe you inside the game might assess how he's performed this year, but just from a sheer number standpoint, he got his 4th double-double of the season over there at Wise, 21 points and 14 rebounds. He's got back-to-back double-doubles, had a double-double in both games last week. He's averaging basically a double-double this season with 9.8 rebounds and 11.3 points per game. So how have you assessed his performance so far this season?
Manuel's been good. I think he's a guy we have high expectations for. He gets better and better and better, and I think he's going to just continue to get better throughout the season. I think he's no surprise to see him leading the league in rebounding and shot blocking. I think he's a type of player that is good enough to potentially lead the country in those two categories. He's a tremendous, I think, defensive player. He can obviously guard 1 through 5, and you could switch him onto anybody, and it's not a problem. And then obviously he's so athletic and so active and plays so hard. He's able to rebound his area, other areas. He flies around, sometimes to his detriment, but for the most part, it's good for us how much he flies around, is all over the place. So offensively, he's coming along. You look at what he did against Carson-Newman. I thought he was really good getting the ball to the rim. He took advantage of some isolation situations, and then he shot a high percentage. He's shooting somewhere in, I think, in the mid-60s for the year. His offensive game, he's getting more confidence there, and as he gets more confidence there, he's a guy that should be a guy that averages a double-double. I think Emmanuel's got a chance to be one of the better big men in the country this year. And again, he's got unbelievable talent. He cares about it. It's important to him. He wants to be good. You combine great talent with high character. And a good work ethic, and I think he's a guy where he'll continue to get better as the season goes along, as he just gets more confident and more comfortable inside of what he can do. Well,
and then you already kind of mentioned this, hit on this. The offense has been, aside from really the Alabama-Huntsville game where the shots just didn't fall, has been really good this year. Scoring, you've already scored 90 points in 4 of your 6 games this season, scoring back-to-back 100-point performances. Second in the league in points per game, and you're leading the league in both field goal percentage and field goal percentage. So how do you assess how the offense has come together so far this year?
Well, I think it's a work in progress, but obviously we have talented offensive guys. I think our numbers are probably better than our execution, but we also have a lot of guys that put the ball in the hole. But I do think we're executing better. I thought obviously. Last week, we averaged, I guess, 107 points a game and probably shot, close to, 58% for the 2 games and shared the ball. I think we had 22 assists against Wise. I think we had 17 against Carson-Newman. Guys kind of figuring things out, learning one another, learning to move the ball and make extra passes. We talked about against Huntsville that we didn't run the offense. We played very selfishly, and I think that was eye-opening for our guys to just watch the film and look at the pass numbers and see. And last 2 games, Carson-Newman, we went from 96 passes against Huntsville to 160 against Newman to 175 against Wise. And those numbers are growing, which means we're moving the ball better, ball's changing size of the floor, we're giving the defense a chance to work and maybe make a mistake and get a good shot. So we have some guys on that end, on that side of the ball that really can put the ball in the basket. And as long as I think offensively, I tell the guys all the time, as long as we take care of the ball and we move the ball, we're going to be a good offensive team because we got guys that can jump up and make shots, whether it's a guy like Luquan Choice or a guy like Cornelius Taylor or Emmanuel Terry, Chris Perry, Dorian Pinson. You go Trayvon Shaw, Hunter Spall. I mean, just down the line, we got a lot of guys that put the ball in the basket. That's as long as we do those 2 things, take care of the ball and we move it. And understand shot selection, we're going to be fine on that side of the ball, I think.
Well, now let's talk about this week. You get back to South Carolina Conference play after this long stretch away from Texas Turner Arena. You finally get to come back home and settle in here. Actually, 6 of the next 7 games are here at Texas Turner Arena. It starts with Lenore Ryan on Wednesday, a rematch, obviously, of last year's Sweet 16 showdown. Obviously, both teams are totally different than they were last year. Looking at Lenore Ryan, a team that lost 3 of their top 4 scorers off of last year's team, including the SAC Player of the Year, Keenan Palmore. But they're still off to a decent start, 1-1 in SAC play. So just kind of talk about the Bears a little bit.
Well, yeah, totally different. Lost, as you said, a number of guys. Obviously had a coaching change there with Coach Sullivan taking over for Coach Odom. Different style of play, but still, I think some things that have translated. I mean, unbelievable 3-point shooting. They've got really guys back that they got 4 guys back that were major players for them. If you look at last year, Reed Lucas, Jacquez Chambers, and then Darian Evans and Billy Bales. And those guys are all performing at a high level as you would expect, coming off a great season, and all were major contributors for him last year. Philippe Lescovar is a guy that played off the bench for him, has moved in kind of a starting role. And then they got a few new guys. Barista, is done really. I think he's their second leading scorer right now. Calhoun, and then they got a kid Ben Zemanek. So they're different style. They're pressing. They're playing a lot of zone, 2-3 zone, mixing and match little 1-3-1 and some different zones. But they're dangerous. I mean, Cataba's a really good team. They went in Catawba, beat them in double overtime. Lost a tough one to UNC Pembroke, and then they went out to Wingate, I think, and dropped one at Wingate. So, very good team, well coached, good players. Present some different challenges with the press and the zone, and obviously, the thing with them, I think that offensively they do really well is transition, and with that shooting, Reed Lucas and Billy Bales and guys like that ilk that can just absolutely, Jacquez Chambers, these are guys that can really, 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 Darian Evans, shoot the ball. And they play fast, and you give them a crack, it's going up and in. And then the other thing I think is, they play small a lot. They'll play a significant amount of time with Reed Lucas at the 5. And, that presents some problems for a team like us where, we're bigger, and how are we going to match up, and how are we going to play, and do we go small and match that, or do we stay big? And something we got to certainly, look at, not only going in the game, but as the game unfolds. Well,
and you kind of beat me to that next point. Is one of the things I thought that might be an advantage for you guys is that this is one of the biggest teams you've ever had here, maybe the biggest team. And if you look at the way that Lenore Ryan is currently constructed, they're just not a really big team. They play small. I think their top 6 leading scorers maybe are all guards. Ben Zemanek is their leading forward, kind of as an offensive threat. So do you see that as where that maybe could turn as an advantage for you with the size?
I think it depends. I think when you have a situation like this, it's who does a better job of exploiting the mismatch, and then so you look at it, and if we can exploit the size advantage inside, then and it doesn't, then you got to figure out defensively, how are you going to guard and can you guard? And I think, the great thing with Emmanuel is he can guard anybody, and he guarded, Sousa against Virginia Wise. He can move his feet and kind of guard a variety of different people. But that's always in those cases where you have kind of you would say an advantage is okay, well, we have a size advantage and they probably have a quickness and skill advantage, and then who takes advantage of the advantage better, and then the other team has to try to figure it out, right? So if we're pounding them inside, they probably got to try to figure something out. If they're killing us off the bounce and from the 3-point line, our bigs aren't getting out to shooters, and we're doing that, and we're not dominating the backboards and hurting them in the post, then we have to figure it out. And so I think that's one of those things where you go into the game, you have some ideas, and then the game unfolds, and then you try to figure out, usually it's pretty evident that you either were or you weren't able to take advantage of whatever the perceived opportunity was.
Well, and then like we had said on the front end of this, 6 of the next 7 at Textron Arena. You've played the first 6 games away from Harrogate. So how nice would that be to settle in here and get some time in front of the home crowd and to kind of get that rhythm going, especially with sack play really kicking up?
Yeah, I think it's always better to be at home than on the road, and I think we've always thought about this. I think it's more important certainly how you play than where you play, but we a schedule this time of year. Everybody talks about records and all that, and I think so much of what your record is this time of year is who you played and where you played them. We've played a pretty difficult schedule. We've played all 6 games away from home. And nobody's fault for that but my own. But we played 6 games away from home against good teams for the most part. And so to get here, to get home, to kind of get in the teeth of South Atlantic Conference play in this stretch, I'm looking forward to that. I'm also, we got once we start Wednesday, 3 games in 5 days. What I'm really looking forward to is getting through Brevard and having that day off Tuesday, and then coming back Wednesday with really a week between December 7th and December 14th when we play Wingate to practice, because we've played so many games and it's been such short turnarounds with these tournaments and preparing for 2 teams and everything that we just haven't had a significant amount of practice time, and since the season got tipped off on the 11th. So looking forward to that little break in the first semester. Hopefully we can clean up some things. We need to obviously get better between now and December 7th to give ourselves a chance here in these next 3 games.